Meanwhile, I'd screamed to the TM, can you find the in-house people, because they were nowhere to be seen. They just ran off. Hey guys, Steve Bewley on my morning trip. How's it going? Hair's still growing long, so I've had to slick it back. This lockdown's been insane. Hopefully in the UK the barbershops are opening soon, so we'll be able to get a haircut. Woo! So yeah, I was just thinking this morning about when I kind of started out, and the times I've massively screwed up, but then kind of things when things have kind of went wrong, what I've learned from it, and how we've moved on. I mean, gosh, one of the first, in fact, the first show I ever operated for a band called Enter Shikari. I mean, I'm talking a long time ago now. We were in a dirty, sweaty venue in Leeds, and I was nervous anyway, and I kind of thought I'd prepped enough to, get through the show. And I was on my own, and we didn't have much kit. It was only a handful of gear, but we were using the in-house lights as well, so augmenting with the floor package. And I was on my own. I was just setting it up on my own, because I think I had about 12 lights, if that. So it was just set it up, and hope for the best kind of thing. And that was just the way it was. That's how it rolled out because of budget and things like that. And we were going into Europe, so it just didn't make sense to have a technician and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't big enough to warrant. There wasn't enough room on the tour bus and all that kind of stuff, so I was on my own. And I'd just learned a console, the Hog console, to run the show on. So I was feeling a bit nervous about running the show on a new console. I was running through over every scenario in my head. Have I got this covered? Have I got that covered? In case something goes wrong. And it was a dirty, sweaty venue in Leeds. I mean, if you've ever seen Enter Shikari live, everything is very hectic. The crowd's going nuts constantly. It gets quite hectic in there. So, it was high energy. And I've been working with the in-house person all day to get my stuff together and all that, and asked the guys where I could hook my power into and everything like that. Got set up, everything was fine, going great. Did all the housekeeping stuff, all good. And then the show starts, and we got about, I'd say, 2/3 of the way through, and this you have to imagine this room is so packed. As the room was getting full at the start of the show, I realised there's no quick way to get from stage to where my gear was, because the stage access where I had to get on stage was actually on the wrong side of the stage to where the power and all my power distribution was. So everything that was controlling my lights was on the stage right. The stage access was on stage left. So if I was going to have to get, but not only that, was I had to actually go from front of house. I actually had to go out the venue back doors, right round the side, and come in like a side kind of stage door. And that wasn't easy to get to either. So I figured out, right, if I need to get back here, this is the way I'm going to have to do it. And I give everyone a heads up and just let them know that this is what's going to have to happen if I come back, because the house person at the time they just weren't willing to sit on stage and look after this in case the shit hit the fan, really. So anyway, 2/3 away through the show, everything's going good. We're into like a high energy part of the show, and all of a sudden, all of the lights pitch black. Everything goes black. Where obviously I'm like, holy shit, right, what's going on? The first thing was not to panic. So it was, as you go on through your sort of career, I'd been through a lot of scenarios as a technician, so I kind of knew there's no use in panicking because you never get anywhere, and you just fault finding when you're panicking is just not a good thing because you don't tend to think rationally. So I kept calm and started flipping through the console. Console was fine, console was outputting. So, resigned to the fact that I unplugged a DMX cable to see if the house console was still working, and that wasn't either. So I plugged the cable back in, and then had to actually get from front of house to the stage. Well, the band actually finished the song in darkness, and we just put the house lights on for a minute. So, there was no creative lighting. We just had to flick the house lights on. So the band finished the song, and obviously rightly so asked what was going on. And by this point, it took me a good couple of minutes to get round to the stage, just how this thing actually went, to get there. And by the time I got there, the guys were like, "Oh, right, here's Steve, he's come to fix the lights." And anyway, so that was over the mic, so everyone then was looking at me trying to fix the lights, and that alone is pressure when you've got the whole room looking at you. And then the band, as they were such wind-up merchants, and they were telling everyone that it was my first show and all of this, and trying to make a joke of it while I was trying to fix the lights. So anyway, got up on stage, ran across the stage to where all the control equipment was. Meanwhile, I'd screamed to the TM, "Can you find the in-house people?" because they were nowhere to be seen. They just ran off, which was very unprofessional. I think they were hiding somewhere, fucking having a cigarette or something. So the TM was frantically trying to find the house people, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. So anyway, I finally clambered over everything because the stage was so tight, and got to my power distribution. Realised there was nothing coming out of this power distribution. There's no lights on. So obviously there's only one thing. Bearing in mind we didn't have the house lights either. The in-house roof lighting. So no moving lights, no conventionals, nothing. So obviously it was fairly evident what had happened. We'd had a power trip. And what the guys didn't tell me was that, which I came to find out, was that the power went through all of their equipment, i.e. their power distribution, which was not in the same position, and then out, and then they provided me with like a trailing lead, which a power socket to plug into, which, looking back now, it was a bit naive of me not to ask if this is a clean line, which we'd actually spec'd in the advance as well, in the rider, that it was always clean, which I do constantly. You always, if you're going to be using in-house, you have to have clean power. Nothing, you're not being fed by any of their equipment unless it's absolutely necessary, and then you need to work out what power's being pulled. So anyway, what was happening was, and I found this out pretty quickly in that scenario, just by routing around myself, because again, these house people were nowhere to be seen. I figured out that all of the went jumping into some cupboards and things like that, and noticed that all of this power was coming off these, it's coming into a power distribution, and then it was coming out, and then it was feeding my stuff. So what was happening was it was overloading the system, and me using my stuff, which was not very much. But what they didn't tell me was, if everything was going at once, which in a Shikari show, everything's fairly hectic, so there's lots of really heavy stabs with atomics and things like that constantly, so obviously massive power surges and blinders and all that was going on at the time, so a lot of power, real spikes and power draw and all that kind of thing. And basically what had happened was that the system had just kind of had a freak out, and I tripped out. I'd kind of tripped out their main rack, So, and then obviously that was feeding my rack. So then there was it wasn't a clean system. So I wasn't independent. So when the house rig went down, it tripped out my stuff as well. So then we didn't have anything. So basically I just kind of had to root around in this cupboard, which was full of shit. They just piled everything into this cupboard where the main power distribution was, which was disgusting. You know, and it's really bad practice to do that. And it was shocking. It really was. And you know, there was all kinds of shit in this cupboard. I don't even want to think about like the crap that was in there. Anyway, clambered in, tripped everything back on, and luckily after a few minutes everything started to get back to how it was. But back then obviously all the moving lights were they wouldn't strike because they were hot, because they were not they were like, I think they were something like Mach 250s or pluses or something like that, which notoriously didn't strike when the lamps were hot. So we had to wait a good, I'd say 5 to 10 minutes for those to cool down before they would even strike. It was a nightmare. So anyway, I had to continue. The band were, you know, really sympathetic, and they were like, they got the crowd on side and all that, and you know, just testament to the guys how good they are at dealing in those situations when things go wrong, and how they deal and work with the crowd. And you know, I was fucking devastated, as you would rightly imagine. But yeah, like we got through the show. I think it was like 2-3 songs later or something, and all the moving lights started to come back. So then we finished the show, and you know, I was, like I said, devastated after the show. Thinking, oh fuck, I'm gonna get fired after the first show. Thinking, oh shit, here we go. I've kind of screwed this up really badly. And so then after the show, the guys made a point, the band, straight away come up to me, grabbed me, you know, said, oh, can you just come in the dressing room? And I was thinking, oh, here we go, this is me going home, right? Okay, see you later, guys. And basically they just said, like, listen, it was not your fault. And they were really sympathetic to it, and you know, they just said you did a really amazing job at dealing with it, and up to that point everything was going really well. It was the best they'd had lighting wise thus far, so they were pleased. And then, you know, everything went well, and they said, you know, don't worry about it, we'll move on. And you know, the crowd seemed to be sympathetic to it as well. Technical hitches happen. So, you know, my point is, like, about this as well, don't beat yourself up too much about it, which I did, obviously. You know, at that time I was devastated. I just, you know, got on the bus, and I think I went straight to bed because I was really pissed off and just like wanted that day to be over. But anyway, we went on and we did the tour, and it was really successful. And you know, I think we're into like 13 years now. I've been working with those guys approximately. So, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, because they saw it, I cared a lot, and I'd kind of planned around everything up to that point. You know, and there was a lot of, in those smaller dirty little venues, you're gonna always come across problems. You just got to try and plan around it. And from that I took a massive lesson, is you can't take anything for granted. You have to plan for every eventuality in the smaller venues, especially when you're using other people's equipment, and power distribution and all that kind of thing. It just helped me massively, you know, in those smaller environments. It taught me a lot about what we're doing as an industry, you know, and how to plan and how to go forward and how to be successful and make your show successful, and put fail safes in place. So yeah, I mean, that was basically one massive fuck up, and it was as I started out. So it was, you know, kind of almost over before it began. And luckily I worked with a bunch of guys that were, you know, super awesome, and they were really sympathetic to a problem that was out of my control. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you guys. And I've got tons of these stories, not about fuck ups, but about like overcoming certain issues and things like that. So I'll probably share a lot more on these vlogs with you. So please hit subscribe if you're on YouTube, and hit the bell as well so we can notify you when we've got new updates and new vlogs for you. So yeah, I'll see you on the next one, guys, and take care.